Okay, so I just finished reading this book for Dr. Reynolds, and she wants me to do some sort of literary criticism on it. This makes me wish I'd paid more attention in English 303. Alright, let's consider my options here. I'm going to look through my book from English 303, Critical Theory Today, by Lois Tyson, to remind myself of what critical theories there are. I remember this book being way more easier than the other one in class. Okay, so according to this book, there are several types, but I wrote down the ones that I remembered the most. Psychoanalytic theory, reader response, historicism, formalism, deconstruction, new historicism, queer theory, feminist theory, postmodernism. Okay, I vaguely remember some of these. From what I do remember, feminist theory would work well with speak. I need to research this. Since I don't know much about it, I'm actually just going to go to Google search and see what pops up. Perfect. Feminist literary criticism. Wikipedia. Okay, so I'm going to basically browse what it's all about, get a general overview of what I missed all those days that I skipped class in English 303. Cool, so I recognize Virginia Woolf's name. I want to get the key people down so I can research them. Judith Butler. I definitely recognize this name. I actually remember reading one of her essays in 303. Now I see why Dr. Reynolds wanted 303 to be a prerequisite for this course. So I think I'll start with researching what Judith Butler has to say about feminist literary criticism. Also, this Wikipedia page has given me a good idea of what feminist literary criticism is about. It's about looking at how women are represented and depicted in literature. I might just have to reread Speak to come up with a decent argument, because I'm going to have to look at how they are depicted specifically in the novel Speak. But first, I'm going to let the experts push me in a direction. I'm going to research Judith Butler and see what I find. I need to research her academically. Of course, I can go onto Wikipedia and see a jag she's made in feminist theory, but I kind of want to get something a little bit more academic that I can use for my paper. So I'm going to click Libraries, and then I'll search through the databases. After all, this is what my tuition is paying for. Might as well use it. Alright, so I think I'll use EBSCO. You can totally use any of these though. JSTOR is also a great source. These are all databases of scholarly peer-reviewed journals, which means that it has been researched and published under the eyes of important academia people, whoever they may be. Okay, to access EBSCO, I have to type in my username and password. Alright, so right now I kind of want to get more information on Judith Butler. I actually want to read some of the stuff that she wrote, stuff that she had to say, because that's what I'm going to actually use for my paper. Great, so I've got all these articles that just came up. 74 results for Judith Butler as the author. However, some of these are in Spanish, so I'm definitely not going to use those because I cannot speak Spanish. I'm going to browse these titles, Precarious Life, Vulnerability, and the Ethics of Cohabitation. I'm not really going to talk about cohabitation in my paper because there's not much of that in Speak, so let's see. Okay, so here Judith Butler is responding to Juliet Mitchell's work, so that's not going to work. You can get a lot of information just by looking at the title and even reading the abstract. So for here, say I'm interested in reading this one. If I read the abstract, it's like reading your thesis. Like you get a good understanding of what the paper is all about. But I don't think this is going to have much to do with Speak. So I'm not going to use that article. Can marriage be saved? Also not quite usable. Oh, look. This one seems interesting. Performativity, precarity, and sexual politics. Well, I kind of have a general idea of what performativity is. It's when a male performs a certain way and a female performs a certain way due to socialization. I'm going to actually read this article and highlight the quotes that remind me of the men and women in Speak. So I'm going to click on the article and skim through it. You can see the subject terms and the abstract, which is basically the thesis. Making a reference to those who are exposed to injury, violence, and displacement. That sounds familiar. There are issues that are constantly arise in the nation state, such as claiming a right when there is not a right to claim. That sounds a lot like the character It from the novel Speak. It seems like this article is going to be very helpful. So I'm actually going to view the full text by clicking this. First, I need to see how long it is. I see that it's only 14 pages. And you really need to read the articles that you find, especially if they're this short. And while you're reading it, you should highlight, take notes of anything that reminds you of the novel Speak, or the novel that you're applying your literary criticism to. To go to a Word document, or my daybook, and type the quote from the scholarly research that I found. So in this instance, I would type a quote from this Judith Butler article that I found very interesting and that I thought could be applicable to a character, whether it be It or the mother or the teachers. And then I write how it reminded me of the novel under it. And so I'm going to have several of these throughout my Word document or daybook. Another brainstorming process I like to use is to look at my critical theory to daybook, which if you guys don't remember, let me show you a picture of that. This is what it looked like. The great thing about this book is that it actually has questions at the end of each chapter that help you form an argument. I actually don't have the book with me, but it'll say something like, at the end of the feminist literary criticism chapter, feminist scholars would ask these questions about a text, and then it will give you a list of questions. So I like to answer those questions in my daybook. So it'll say something like, how is the lead female character depicted? And I'll answer. I'll answer as honestly as I can in my daybook. And that'll help me brainstorm and strengthen my argument. So through my researching process, I realized that my topic is probably a bit cliche. Dr. Reynolds specifically requested that we take risks with these papers. And I fear I might be choosing the obvious lens here for Speak. I mean, of course the book is about women's empowerment. So therefore, to keep things original, I'm going to have to flip feminist literary criticism on its ear and look at how the males in the book are depicted, especially the rapist, using Judith Butler's theory on gender performativity. So that's going to be my argument. I'm going to use my notes, my highlighted passages, and quotes from both Speak and Judith Butler's essay to help write this paper. I need to make sure to incorporate these quotes in my paper too. Now, the only step I have left is the hardest part, getting all my ideas down on paper.